Welcome to Missouri Sports Talk. I'm your host, Cameron Staley. Today we've got large school predictions, classes 4, 5, and 6. So let's hop into it from last week. The Blair Oaks, they ended up beating Hallsville 62-48 on the road. Falcons are looking good right now, sitting at 8-3. Hallsville also good, 10-3. Maryville, they ended up winning at home against Mid-Buchanan. This ended up being a 65-58 win. 6-6 for them, maybe. I don't know if I accidentally messed up that record. I feel like that's wrong. Maybe Buchanan, I believe, is 7-7. Potosi, they win a high-scoring game against St. Genevieve, 95-85. Potosi is 12-2. Clayton versus Lutheran North. Neither of these teams are putting in their records. So Clayton, they are not 7-0. They actually have a few losses, but I don't know how many, so I can't tell you. But I can tell you this much. So they're not 7-0. If I were to guess, they're sitting around 9-2 or 9-3. Nonetheless, still a great basketball team. Lutheran North, I can tell you, they're not a 1-1 basketball team. They are actually listed as 1-0 on their MSHSAA page, but we're going over a game that they lost. So I can tell you they at least have one loss. So that's a really big pet peeve for me. When a team doesn't put in their stats, it's like, what are you doing? Like, put in your scores. I think that's an AD thing. So fix it, please. That's all I'll say there. Puxico, they beat Dexter by 10 points, 53-43. Puxico, they are looking so good. This is a Class 4 team that they knocked off. Dexter 7-9, so they're not like elite per se, but Puxico, they are 14-1. They're looking good this year. In a Tri-County Conference game, Osage versus California, Osage up to 10-3 on the season. They win this one over the Pintos, 50-44. Class 5 scoreboard from last week. Rolla beats Camdenton 71-54. Rolla sitting at 13-2. They've got a pretty tough game coming up that we're going to talk about. Sykeston obviously wins this game over St. Mary's. They're up to 12-2. They win this game 72-51. Helias beats Bolivar 64-42. This is a really, really good win for Helias, sitting at 6-8. I got to see him play JC, who beat Tolton 63-53. I was at that JC Tolton game. I was also at the JC Helias game, so that's kind of an interesting thing. I've been watching JC maybe a little bit too much here lately. Probably shouldn't go back for a little bit to kind of, keep the variety on the channel. I don't want people to start coming in my comments calling me JC Sports Talk or something, because people started doing that with Blair Oaks because I predicted a win state, and I think they more took issue with it because I went there, so they're saying it was biased, but then they ended up winning state. So talk to me later. So JC beat Tolton by 10. Pingleton played a pretty solid game for Tolton. He ended up having 21, I believe. Zay Wilson, he dropped 19, but he didn't have a great game. And then Aaron Rowe, big dog, he's going to Mizzou. He dropped 9 points. And, I'm not going to go too far into it. It's just like, I don't want to call him lazy. I'm not trying to sit here and say that Aaron Rowe's lazy. But if I were in his position, what does it matter? Like, does it really matter to him right now? I don't know. But I'd assume that he'll, lock in and actually, play full form during the playoffs when it really matters. But, at this point for him, he's already locked into Mizzou. He's going to get paid. It's like, don't get injured. That's really what it is for Aaron Rowe right now. Borgia beats Herman 60-43. This is a good win for Borgia, sitting at 10-5 on the season. And Nixa, obviously they're going to beat Willard. They win 81-56, though. I didn't expect it to be that far. Nixa is 13-1 this year. Class 6 scoreboard. Blue Springs South defeats Blue Springs. This is a big rivalry. Blue Springs rivalry there. Blue Springs South is 10-3 on the season. Now they win that one 55-47. Lee Summit, they win 70-40 over a Liberty North team that is actually receiving votes in Class 6. So that's a really good win. Battle, they beat Rockbridge. These are two rivals from Columbia. Battle's now 10-3 on the season. They beat Rockbridge 71-55. I got to watch these dudes up against Smith Cotton. It was at Smith Cotton, and they played really good. And They play another really good game. They ended up playing at Harrisburg. Didn't play Harrisburg. They played at Harrisburg in the little tournament that I was at. That was where you saw Harrisburg versus Holt highlights. If you didn't see it, then go watch them. It's a pretty good game. I don't remember who Battle ended up playing. I think it was Cardinal Ritter. I think they played Cardinal Ritter, which, they made Final Four last year. I think they made the Final Four the year before that. I think one or two of those were a state championship. So Cardinal Ritter is a great team, and they ended up making it look pretty easy. So Battle's rolling this year. DeSmet beats Vianney 77-74. Exactly what I said would happen, happened. The starting five for DeSmet, they are all in two figures on scoring. All of them scored at least 10 points and scored 77 points, Good amount of scoring. This is where it gets interesting. Vianney, they score 74. They had a 50-point night from Luke Walsh. This is exactly what I said. It's the Luke Walsh show. This guy needs some help, He scored how much? I don't think he scored exactly 50, but even in the scenario that he scored 50 on the dot, that's 24 points from the rest of the team. So basically, like I said, I don't remember if he had 50, 51, 52, but DeSmet barely outscored this dude alone. So, there needs to be a little help there, but it is what it is. DeSmet ends up getting it done. They're 15-1 on the season. Carthage loses to Kickapoo at home, ends up being 62-40. Kickapoo is 14-2 on the season. That's a team that I probably should go check out at some point. And Chaminade, man, they beat the brakes off of CBC 83-49. That's insane. Chaminade, they are listed at 7-1. I think they played quite a few more games than that, though, and they don't have it listed up on Misha. That's going to be a thing I continue to say. I'm not happy about that. Class 4 scoreboard. This is the only game that we're predicting that is tonight. Chillicothe versus Moberly. Chillicothe is sitting at 10-5. I think they'll win at home, scoring 53.3 per game, allowing 45.2. Bolivar versus Monette. Bolivar 9th in Class 4. They're scoring 63.9 per game, allowing 55.8. Give me Bolivar at home. Richmond versus Lexington. Richmond scoring 65.5, allowing 44.4. They are 35-2 in history since 2009 against Lexington. That is not funny. 35-2, that's crazy. I feel bad for Lexington, because when you look at the other side, Lexington's 2-35 against Richmond in the past, oh man, that was bad math, 16 years. So that's really rough for the Minutemen. Richmond, obviously, I'm going to take them here. Boonville versus Hallsville. This one is Friday night. Richmond and Bolivar are both Friday night as well. I think Hallsville will win this one on the road. They're receiving votes in Class 4, scoring 63.2 per game, allowing 45.3. I think the Indians will get it done. Orchard Farm versus Holt is our Class 4 game of the week. This one is on the 28th. Orchard Farm, they're scoring 58.8 a game, allowing 49. They're a really solid team. I really hope that I can make it out at some point this season. I think they'll beat Holt. And Reed Spring versus Stratford to end off Class 4. I think Stratford's going to win. They're sitting at 11-2 this season. That's really impressive to me. They're 7th in Class 4, so these guys are no slouch whatsoever. 64.9 points per game, only allowing 51.8. That's looking pretty good. That one is also on the 28th. I believe that's Tuesday, if I'm not wrong. I think that's Tuesday. Class 5 scoreboard. Almost all of these games are Friday in Class 6. I've got 2 of them for Friday night here. Helias and Cap City and West Plains and Parkview are both Friday night games. Tuesday night games for the rest of them. The bottom 4 are Tuesday night games on the 28th here in Class 5. Helias versus Cap City. Man, Helias, they're better than a 6-8 basketball team. I can tell you that much. They're way better than a 6-8 basketball team. They're playing some really tough competition. Tough competition. They lost in overtime by 1 point to JC. I was there for that game. What was that? No, not Wednesday night, Tuesday night. And I had a good time. They looked really good, but it's kind of hard to beat JC. JC sitting at 11-3. So Cap City, I don't think they're going to be able to keep up with Elias. Elias, for what it's worth, they're scoring 57.6 points per game. Even with losing 8 games, they're only allowing 58.9 points allowed per game. So that's one more. That's kind of where I got tripped up there when I said 0.1. They're allowing 1 point more per game than what they're scoring, yet they're 6-8. So, I mean, that's a pretty solid ratio for being with a losing record. If we want to talk about matchup history with Helias and Cap City became a school in 2020. Helias is 5-0 against them. So Cap City's still looking for a win against the Crusaders. I don't think it's going to happen this season. So give me Helias. West Plains versus Parkview. Parkview's kind of scared me. They're on a 4-game losing streak. That's not a good thing. So the polls come out, the media polls, or coaches, I guess, kind of. It's like kind of a mix. Like the coaches feel like media here because there's like 10 of them. So in the polls, coaches/media polls, Parkview's sitting at 8th, but it comes out every 2 weeks. So they're definitely going to drop out because they're on a 4-game losing streak. But in technicality, right now they are 8th in Class 5, scoring 55.1 points per game, allowing 53.6. I think that they'll get back on track here in that 4-game losing streak and beat West Plains. Vianney versus MICDS. I've gotten the opportunity to see both of these teams this year. I think with Luke Walsh, he likes to shoot a lot of threes. So if he's making the shots, they're winning this game. I am going to take him winning, but what I saw from MICDS against JC, these guys are real good rebounders. So I think it's going to come down to if Luke Walsh is on it that night. And I feel like he is most of the time. So I think the physicalness of MICDS will kind of be contained because Luke Walsh is just going to put it through the basket every single time he goes up and shoots it. So Vianney sitting at 2nd in Class 5, 78.4 points per game, allowing 64.7. I think they'll get this one done. Ladue versus Westminster is our Class 5 game of the week. This was between Rollin DeSmet and Ladue and Westminster. I think this one will be just a slight bit more competitive. Ladue sitting at 3rd in Class 5, Westminster 10th in Class 5. I think Westminster is going to win on the road. I'm going to take an upset here. They're scoring 61.3 points per game, allowing 44.7, I should say. I'm sorry. I think they're the better team. And, you can call me crazy for that, but I'm going to ride with the Wildcats here. Raleigh versus DeSmet, as I just mentioned. I took Ladue and Westminster as a more competitive game because I'm just so high on DeSmet. Like, Raleigh's a really good basketball team. They are, but DeSmet, man, they're really, really in the running for Class 6 state this year. They're sitting at 15-1. I think it's going to go to 16-1. They're 3rd in Class 6, scoring 69.6 points per game. When you're scoring almost 70 points per game, that's why you're winning. And they're allowing 45.7. I started reading a different number. 45.7 points allowed per game for DeSmet. Farmington versus Festus. This is where the points allowed per game comes from. I'm going to take Farmington here. They're 14-1. They're 9th in Class 5, 71.2 points per game. Like I just said with DeSmet, if you're scoring 70 points per game, that's a pretty darn good thing. Allowing 51.1, that was the number that I read. The Knights, I think, will end up beating Festus. Class 6 scoreboard as we wrap up this video. Blue Springs South, I think they'll beat Liberty North. This one is on Friday night. North, they're solid. They're receiving votes, but, that 70-40 loss against Lee Summit, that's pretty rough. I think Blue Springs South, with 10-3 record, they're a pretty good team, scoring 61.2 points per game, allowing 51.4. So give me the Jaguars. Francis Howell versus Liberty. I think Liberty will win this one on the road, scoring 61.6 points per game, allowing 45.9. I think they can get it done against the Vikings. Fort Zumwalt North versus Washington. This one is going to be really entertaining. I'm kind of considering going to this one. If I do a vote, it'll definitely be up there on it. I think North is going to win this one at home. 56.7 points per game, allowing 50.4. They are 22-8. 22-8 against Washington since 2009. Smith Cotton versus Jefferson City. I think JC's going to win this one. I like Smith Cotton. They're a solid team this year, but I don't think they'll be able to keep up with JC. JC's receiving votes in Class 5. I think they'll get into the rankings this Monday when it comes out, scoring almost 67 points per game and allowing 59.6. I think they'll be able to take over in Sedalia. Jackson versus Cape Central is our Class 6 game of the week. I'm going to take maybe a potential upset. I don't think it's really an upset because Cape Central actually leads the matchup history in the past 15 years pretty easily as well. You know, they've got a pretty good amount of a gap there in the matchup history. Cape Central sitting at 10-4. Jackson's actually 15-2. So these are two really good basketball teams this year. Cape Central, they are receiving votes in Class 5. 58.6 points per game, allowing 50.6. I think they'll get this one done against their rivals. Oak Park versus Central to end off the day. Obviously, you know, Oak Park is my Class 6 favorite, so I'm going with them here at home. They're 12-1, first in Class 6. They're scoring 71.8 and allowing 53.6. I think they'll take care of a Central St. Joseph team who is sitting at 500 right now, 7-7. Man, Oak Park with Corbin, they're looking really good. I think it's either going to be DeSmet or it's going to be Oak Park. I'm not sleeping on Battle, but those are my two right now. And you know, there's a few other good teams like Cardinal Ritter that could end up doing it, but I'm sticking with Oak Park here. But that's all we got for today. This has been Missouri Sports Talk. See you next time.